Welcome back, guys, to Ace Attorney Investigations 2, Prosecutors Gambit, where last episode, using Little Thief, we reconstructed the yard scene not once but twice, during the teardown, and then when Regina Berry arrived, was seen during the show, learning more about Simeon Saint's performance as we called Gumshoe's metal detector into action and located more waste used in our defendant's trick. With a lot of logic joined up, we then found a contradiction in what was left by the well during the teardown, but it failed to target what we need to deduce, taking penalties until now. Because, of course, I did what this says. This line here says, I must scour the scene and inspect anything that catches my attention, which is what I didn't do the first time, because when we came into it, of course, everything's a tick, which means that usually there is nothing more to deduce or, to tell us. But if we click on the rope... So, this rope was used in Mrs. Saint's trick during the show. That's one heck of a setup to pull off with a single length of rope. Simeon's more capable than he looks. Just one piece of rope. It seems we have a contradiction on our hands. Yes, I know. I figured that out. I just couldn't figure out what to do. So it's definitely most likely the rope, considering its stats. Which we tried, except for the fact that we then presented the rope to the rope. Which is probably more me jumping ahead a little bit on the logic train we're about to go down. This is where probably the rope has gone, not the thing we need to present to do that. And we presented most likely is the correct thing to something else entirely, because let's try to do the pulley as well. Well, the dumb is over. Hopefully this is absolutely correct this time. Inspecting the already inspected. That's what I missed. Eureka! Think about the two recreations, the one during the performance and the one we're looking at right now. There's a major difference between the two. Namely, the one of the ropes is missing. It's too bad we can't just enter text saying, hey, a rope's missing. Oh yeah! Mr. Saint's trick wouldn't work with only the items we see before us. So what happened? Where did the missing rope go? I think one of the pieces of evidence we've collected might tell us exactly that. It's exactly what I thought as well. Really? What shows us where the missing rope went? It was discovered on top of Knight's body. Does this mean the victim was tied up? Take that! This rope was found beside Knight's body. Wait, you mean... Yes, it must have been the other rope used in Mr. Saint's trick. So you're saying... Yes, this rope did indeed have a weight attached to it. But it wasn't any of the iron weights we found. Those were hidden in the bushes and replaced with something else. What was it, Mr. Edgeworth? Come on, I'm dying here. Think about what the rope we found in the workshop was related to. Do that and you'll soon figure out the answer. The weight dropped down the well in place of the iron weights was... You're saying it's the body. Take that! It could only have been Knight's body that was dropped down the well. What? Mr. Knight's body was the weight? Yes, somebody first swapped out the weights used for Mr. Saint's trick. And then Mr. Saint used the contraption to make his exit from the stage. When he let the rope around his body loose, both the rope and Knight's body fell to the bottom of the well. That rope was never used to restrain Knight. It was used to suspend his body halfway down the well. From this, we can easily see why most of the weights were hidden. So that no one would realize they'd been replaced with the body. Precisely. We can then further deduce that they were hidden by the killer. Whoa there, gang. Wasn't poor old Bronco stabbed in the neck? Wouldn't there be blood everywhere, including down the well? Oh, the killer thought of that, which is why they used this. What did the killer use to stop Knight's blood from going everywhere? I'm assuming it's the tarp, of course. Take that! This tarp was found with the body. I think it's likely that Knight's corpse was wrapped in it. Oh, another piece of the puzzle falls into place. It's all coming together now. Love it. But all we're doing is proving that the body did go down the well. Which means we're helping to prove that Simeon was the killer. No, not quite. What about that Judge Gavèlle said yesterday? But if Mr. Saint truly is the killer, why would he need to go to such a length to commit his crime? That's true. Knight's body fell down the well when Mr. Saint used his contraption during the show. Therefore, it reveals nothing about where the real killer actually was or what they were doing at the time. It's only designed to throw suspicion onto those who were not at the show. Yeah. I guess we did suspect Mr. Canis right away, huh? That was the killer's goal, to make us think that the crime took place during the show. In other words, they used the well contraption to construct an alibi. Miss Berry, when exactly did Mr. Saint put his contraption together? It would have been the day before the show. The night before, actually. Yes, we started getting ready for the show at around 9 p.m. And I think we finished at around midnight. In which case, the killer must have switched the weights out for the body after that point. The body was left dangling inside the well the night before the incident. Is there just loads of blood in that tunnel? Oh, I guess it's in the top. Mr. Saint's trick data has been updated in my organizer. The weights were replaced with the victim's body by someone. Though, to be honest, though, if you move the weights to go not suspicious will hide them. It's usually when you're like packing down and going, what's the weight there? There's not enough weight in it or something like that. Surely there's enough there to be suspicious of. Did Canis know about this contraption? Even if he did, he wouldn't have been able to do much with it. And I highly doubt that he taught his dog to suspend bodies halfway down wells. Which means Canis isn't the killer. He's not the killer at all. Right then, what do we do next? I'd have thought that was it. What have we got left to go on here? The body uses weight as logic now? Basket of apples was moved by someone the night before the show? Are these connected on the basis of my investigation here hasn't finished yet? Okay then. I mean, I could take another penalty. Don't have to be shy about getting them now, after all. The basket was moved the night before the circus performance, and we've deduced that the weights were switched out for the body at around the same time. Hard to chalk that up to coincidence, huh? Then the next question we should be asking is, why was the cart moved? I think I can hazard a guess. The cart would have been blocking that door. Which can only mean somebody needed to open it. Oh, we're finally going in the power room. Now let's see what's... Oh, great. It's locked. Let me ask a guard for help. Hey, Mr. Guard. Surely they wouldn't allow us in. Yes, miss. What can I do for you? That was fast. Guard, where's the key for this door? Oh, the warden keeps hold of that. I'll go ask her for it. Warden Lagarde is the only one with a key. Meaning if somebody did open the door, they would have had to get it from her somehow. Thanks for the help. Ooh. Look at all these breakers. They must control the electricity for the whole prison. So we're thinking somebody got in here the night before the show, right? But why? What were they trying to do? Well, I doubt they came here by mistake thinking it was a break room. They must have come to tamper with the switches. Did they turn off the power or something? Come to think of it, wasn't there something that lost power? The cameras. Or might have lost power had a breaker been flipped. Test for fingerprints. I guess it's this. Take that! There was a 3-hour gap in the security camera footage. Oh yeah, there was! So somebody flipped the breaker it was connected to. It seems very likely. Do you think it was the killer? It's true that shutting off the cameras would have made things easier for them. It would! Which means the killer would have to be someone who had access to the breakers. And it seems only one person has the key. It couldn't be. Could it? Breaker's data has been jotted down in my organizer. Alright, little thief. Your work here is done. Oh, the investigation's complete! With no more penalties taken. Ah, thank you for my health back. Erase my mistakes. First on the scene, the early bird wins the worm. Good morning, Mr. Winner. What? You? How'd you get here before me? Good morning, Mr. Edgeworth. I see you've made an early start. And I see you've made a late one, Judge Gavèlle. This is not my only case. I am a very busy woman. Not all of us enjoy the freedom of a prosecutor, relieved of his only current responsibility. Ah. Oh, I do apologize. I meant, of course, an associate attorney. Associate? More like asinine? We'll see about that. Eustace, let us begin the investigation of the yard. Okay, I'll go get some officers to help.
Hold it!
That won't be necessary. Why not? We've already finished investigating the yard and won quite the prize in the process. Won? But I'm supposed to be the winner! Your Honor. I'd like to revisit your theory from yesterday, in order to thoroughly disprove it. I would caution you to choose your words carefully, Mr. Edgeworth. As I am sure you remember, your badge is in my hands. How could I forget? You've told me several dozen times already. Perhaps you'd care to try a different threat.
Overruled.
You have been warned repeatedly, yes, and each time my words seem to have fallen on deaf ears. Allow me to make this crystal clear. The committee cannot and will not tolerate insubordination.
Objection!
The fate of my badge and the whims of the committee are of no concern to me now. The only thing that concerns me is proving Simeon Saint's innocence. Interesting, and spoken like a true defense attorney. In that case, I shall be equally uncompromising. In the name of the goddess of justice, I will strike down your case without mercy. And when I am done, your career as a prosecutor will be over as well. I hope you do not come to regret this. Why are you so vicious, Judge Gavèlle? And what's your theory, then? My theory remains the same as when I related it to yesterday. Mr. Casarato did not see Mr. Knight's body when he passed through the tunnel. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show was Mr. Saint. No, unless it was on a time release. That's still your assertion, and you can prove it, of course. Of course she can! Who do you think you're up against? What Eustace means to say is that we received the final autopsy report just ahead of our arrival. She really is a very busy woman, busy looking after baby Winner. The victim appears to have died the night before the body was discovered. In other words, the night before the show. The cause of death is as stated. It seems the wound is 4 inches deep. We got a time frame. Simeon Saint was off stage for a period of 15 minutes. That was plenty of time for him to throw the victim's body down the well. Judge Gavèlle hasn't investigated the yard yet, which means... Give me 2 seconds, though. We've got that info, and I want to check it out a bit further if we can. Broken Knight, age 24, stabbed wound to the throat, instant death, wound was 4 inches deep, murder weapon was a sharp blade of some sort. And between 3 AM and 6 AM on the 27th was the estimated time of death. Not that much information. Also, can we test the camera switch for fingerprints, pretty please? I mean, everything here seems pretty on board and standard. Everything is on. I think there's anything to see there yet. It's obvious. Let's put it that way. I fear there may be something of a flaw of your theory, Your Honor. You seem very confident of that. But do you have any evidence to prove it? Yes, I think I just might. Judge Gavèlle's theory. My theory remains the same as when I related it to you yesterday.
Hold it!
That theory being that Mr. Saint was the killer. You're certainly clinging to it rather stubbornly. And you are certainly clinging rather stubbornly to the idea that Mr. Saint wasn't the killer. Do you have any conclusive evidence that he wasn't? Any idea who the real killer might be? I'd like to see what evidence you yourself have first. I am an emissary of the goddess of justice. My words are her words. But her words are wasted on you, I see. You would challenge me if I said the sky was blue. Is this a court or a cult? If you truly mean to refute the word of the divine, then come, show me your evidence. Mr. Carcerato did not see Mr. Knight's body when he passed through the tunnel.
Hold it!
Isn't it possible that Mr. Carcerato simply failed to notice the body? Assistant to the Associate Attorney, you have been through the secret passage, have you not? Whoa, how'd you know? I noticed mud on you yesterday, on that charming key in your hair to be precise. That's incredible! You could be a great thief with eyes like that. Answer me truthfully, in the name of the goddess. Would you or would you not have noticed a body had one been present? Well, you know, I guess I would have. There you have it. Mr. Carcerato did not see a body, which means there was nobody there to see. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show.
Hold it!
Could you talk us through your reasoning on that a little more? Not that we disagree, of course, we agree. The day before the performance, Mr. Knight borrowed the keys from Mr. Carcerato, or more specifically, the key to his cell. Mr. Knight then used the key to leave his cell and enter Mr. Saint's cage. Mr. Saint took Mr. Knight to the yard in that cage, and that's where he killed him. The following day, Mr. Carcerato crawled his way through the tunnel, but there was no body there yet. Wait a second, that doesn't add up. Mr. Carcerato smelled that sweet smell, so Mr. Knight must have been in the tunnel already. No, his body did not pass through the tunnel until sometime after Mr. Carcerato had crawled through it. Mr. Carcerato used the tunnel right around the time the show was starting. The body was discovered just after the performance ended. From which you deduced that the body could only have been thrown down the well during the show. Yes, and who the culprit must be. We both know the only one who could have dropped the body down there during the show is Mr. Saint.
Hold it!
Are you sure about that? Could nobody else have done it? I understand that Miss Berry was on stage for the entire performance. Most of the prisoners were watching the show, and those who were not have plausible alibis. What about the guards? They too were watching the show, as was the warden. How can you be so sure? A guard could have easily approached the well unnoticed. None of the guards left their posts during the show. I have checked this for myself, you know. I took statements from each and every one of them. She's thorough, I'll give her that. Are you finally ready to accept the truth? That the killer could only have been Simeon Saint? And Judge Gavèlle hasn't carried out a full investigation of the yard yet. Which means we've got the advantage for a change. I should review the evidence we gathered during our investigation of the yard. I guess that we're contesting the last statement on the basis of the fact that you said only Simeon Saint could do it. Where we can prove that a lot of people could have done it, basically. The main reason we're going for that, though, is because we're not contesting really anything else. There's nothing to contest here. That's opinion. That's Gavèlle's opinion. It's her theory. Mr. Carson did not see Mr. Knight's body. We're not contesting. We believe that to be true. As such, the body could only have been dropped down the well during the show. We believe that to be true. So that means the only thing we can present to is this. Now, the question is what we're presenting, and if it's involving the show... We know the weights were replaced with the victim's body by someone, used during the show to send Saint flying. Anyone could have done the switcheroo. But then it's proving that. But then it's more the fact that we're also trying to ambush her on information she doesn't know, and she doesn't know about Mr. Saint's trick? Could be that? I mean, everything else is a bit more intrinsically related to other parts of the prison.
Objection!
Sorry, Your Honor, but there's something else you're going to have to take into account. The well in the yard was rigged up to create a certain unique contraption. A contraption? Go on. You will recall that Mr. Saint was sent flying from the stage by the elephant. I do, just before he was to be absent for some time. He was only able to fly through the air thanks to a weighted rope he tied around himself. Dropping the weighted end down the well allowed him to complete the trick.
Objection!
Wait, wouldn't that send him flying as soon as he set foot on the stage?
Hold it!
It's simple, really. He kept the weight from falling by using a stake to keep the rope in place. With a second rope, he was able to pull the stake free, thereby controlling when the weight was dropped. We have found evidence to suggest that the original weight was replaced with Knight's body. This was done by the real killer in order to create an alibi. The estimated time of death tells us that the murder took place early in the morning. The killer could have tampered with a contraption in the time between the murder and the show.
Objection!
You're saying Mr. Saint himself set this contraption up, right? Well then, who do you think is the number one most likely person to have used it to dispose of a body, Even you must see how this looks.
Objection!
If Mr. Saint was the killer, he could have simply done as Judge Gavèlle theorized without these extra steps. Miss Berry. Yes? Does anyone else know Mr. Saint's, or how Mr. Saint's trick works? Well, let's see. We had to get the prison's approval on what we were going to perform, so I don't think Simeon's the only one who knows. And there you have it.
Overruled.
Interesting. You've certainly been diligent in your investigation. And yet I fail to comprehend your actions still. Why do you not work to do what is right? Is what I'm doing wrong? If so, who is it that deems it so? How can you not grasp even that? How can you not see that you are doing wrong at this very moment? You are a prosecutor and yet you aid the defense. This flies in the face of common sense. You are breaking every rule in the book. I think only of what is right and just, and act as I see fit in each situation I am confronted with. This is the path I have chosen, and whether you can comprehend that choice is immaterial. But if you mean to stand in my way, I will fight back with all I can bring to bear. Perhaps the goddess of justice is testing me. Very well, if it is her will that we must fight, then I shall end this once and for all. Listen well, Mr. Edgeworth, there is another reason why only Mr. Saint can be the killer. More testimony. Why Saint is the suspect? If the body was moved from the yard to the workshop, then Mr. Knight must have first been brought here to the yard from his cell. The only person who had the opportunity to do that is Simeon Saint, and thus he remains the only plausible suspect. Mr. Saint took a cage with him to Mr. Knight's cell, but why would he do that? Why take such an unwieldy object all the way to the holding cells? Yeah, it is pretty sus. But we've all met Mr. Saint. That's exactly the kind of thing he would do. It's entirely plausible that he took the cage with him out of absent-mindedness and nothing else. It may be plausible, but it is no more or less plausible than him having helped Mr. Knight to escape. I need some real solid evidence if I'm going to get it to budge. Time to press the rebuttal. Or our rebuttal. If the body was moved from the yard to the workshop... Yes, go on. You seem to think that Mr. Knight was killed here in the yard. When do you think he was brought here? Sometime between midnight and 8 a.m., the day of the show. It could only have been during that time. In other words, between the end of rehearsal and the start of the performance. As I was saying, if the body was moved from the yard to the workshop, then Mr. Knight must have first been brought here to the yard from his cell.
Hold it!
Was there really no other way he could have come here? Mr. Knight was awaiting trial. If he, a random non-inmate, had openly entered the prison proper, he surely would have been noticed. And presumably none of your witnesses have testified to having seen such a thing. Precisely. Praise be to the goddess of justice for granting you this insight. So as you will agree, it could only be that Mr. Knight was brought over here in secret. The only person who had the opportunity to do that is Simeon Saint.
Hold it!
You're certain nobody else had the opportunity? Need I remind you that we are in a prison? The entire facility is monitored at all times. Anything out of the ordinary would have been spotted.
Hold it!
But Mr. Saint was under that same scrutiny, was he not?
Overruled!
The warden had granted the members of the circus troupe special access. As a member of that troupe, under the supervision of Miss Berry, he is the only person who was free to wander where he willed.
Objection!
It seems you've forgotten something, Your Honor.
Overruled!
Forget is not a word in my vocabulary, Mr. Edgeworth. Very well, then recall this fact, if you will. You claim that Mr. Saint is the only person who was free to walk around the prison. But there was a brief period of time on the day of the crime in this prison, a time when it would have been impossible for anyone to move through the prison entirely unmonitored. What do I have that shows there was a period on the day of the crime where oversight was limited? something that we presented not long ago. We know the security cameras went off, right?
Take that!
Mr. Saint is far from the only one who had the opportunity. Which opportunity are we talking about again? We'd previously established that the time code on the security footage was off by 3 hours. And from this, we can deduce that there must have been a power outage lasting for that length of time, during which anyone could have moved around the prison undetected. Do you mean to say that our killer intentionally created this 3-hour gap? That it was no simple camera malfunction? Is that even possible? It was completely possible to create the 3-hour gap using this. I guess we're using... I should use the R button to go for, isn't it? The breakers.
Take that!
Our investigation of the yard turned up something rather interesting. A panel of breakers, one which can be used to cut the power to the security cameras. We also learned that the door to the power room may have been opened at around the time of the murder. What? It's such a shame to see one so capable fall so short of the mark. Mr. Edgeworth knows what he's doing. Then how does he explain the lock on the power room door? Oh yeah, it was kind of locked up tight. And the warden's the only one with the key. Those breakers are vital to the prison's infrastructure, so I very much doubt that anyone could have gained access to the power room's key so easily.
Objection!
No, but one person could have. I beg your pardon? That person, the killer, had easy access to it, in fact. And what's more, their position here is such that nobody would dare question them.
Objection!
What? There's no one like that! And the breaker to the electric fence is in there! They would be questioned in an instant! There's only one person who meets these criteria. I can hardly believe it myself, but I have to follow where the logic leads. The person who had access to the power room key was... not on the first page. Fifi Lagarde.
Take that!
The real culprit is... Warden Lagarde. Oh, just look at you. Aren't you the cutest little poochie woochie? He's not just a pretty face. Missile also has quite the nose for sweet things. It seems he's smelling something very sweet indeed. And it's coming from you. Oh, darling, you're making me blush. I'm not even wearing perfume. Then perhaps it is the sweet stench of death. You're a regular poet, aren't you? I had no idea. But if I didn't know better, I'd almost think you were calling moi the killer. That is precisely what I'm calling you. What? Warden Lagarde is the killer? Mr. Edgeworth, do you realize what you're saying? Ho ho ho! Such a naughty boy. How could he suspect me? I'm the one in charge around here. It's like we're in a murder mystery, aren't we? And equally far-fetched. This is preposterous.
Hold it!
Sadly, it is not, although I can hardly believe it myself. But this is where the evidence points, and we must trust in the evidence. This piece of evidence proves that Warden Lagarde is the killer. Huh? What? Is it because we're going with a sweet smell again? It seems he's smelling something. Oh, it's because Miss Out. Yeah, okay. Sweet things. Sweet, sweet. When it tries to drum in one word, it wants us to do everything. A sweet scent can be detected. The sweet scent isn't the tunnel. The sweet scent is Warden Lagarde. Sweet.
Take that!
Your scent betrays you, Warden. And here is your accuser. The police dog. We had him track a sweet scent that was lingering around Knight's body back when it was first found. He now appears to be smelling the same scent, and it's coming from you. Oh, darling, you're priceless. Really you are. Your evidence is a whiff of suspicion. Verity, dear, do put him in his place. Ho-ho! It seems Judge Gavèlle may have reached a similar conclusion to myself. You believe this to be no mere coincidence, Mr. Edgeworth? I do. After all, she had the key, and the scent found lingering on the body is hers as well. Were it just one or the other, we might be able to brush it off as coincidence. However... Indeed. Then it seems a conclusion approaches. Ooh. Perhaps we should hear what the warden has to say for herself. We should, and when we have, this case will finally be at an end. You're being simply awful. Stop looking at me like that. Me, the killer? How could I possibly do such a thing? Well, a conclusion is coming up with the elucidating testimony, I didn't do it. Did you or didn't you? I guess that's for us to try and find out and deduce next time on Ace Attorney Investigations. Is this the end of the case? The second one. We'll find out next time. Join me then for more. And until then, I say bye-bye.